This is We Been Drinking MMA. We really appreciate you joining us for this special video. This is a sports bet involving the UFC, which is the Ultimate Fighting Championship. It is mixed martial arts where two fighters get into a cage with gloves on, so it's not completely animalistic. And there's rules, and they are fighting to see who wins, and that is what this sports bet is going to be about. Now, the goal is to try and 7x the money that I'm putting down. That is my goal. And the way to do that is something called a parlay, where a parlay you could put money on one fight, and if you win, you win. If you lose, right? So that's the long and short of that. But with a parlay, what you can do is you can put multiple fights. So if I like 3 different fighters to win their fights, I can put them together on one bet. All 3 fighters have to win their fights, and if they win, it's gonna be insane. It can be insane money. So in this case, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get 6 fighters. 6 fighters I believe are gonna win their fights. So these are my top 6 fighters of this event, which is this Saturday, October 7th. The event is UFC Bobby Green versus Grant Dawson. It's going to be on ESPN and ESPN Plus streaming online. It should be on ESPN if to watch it, and it'll have 12 fights that night. Each fight takes about half an hour, and so the whole event is about 6 hours. And what I'm going to do is, normally, if I bet $100 on a fighter, it'll basically give me about $100 back in profit if my fighter wins. Now, if I get 6 fighters in this case, they're all fighters that are good fighters, and they have a good chance to win. But because I'm putting all 6 in one bet, so all 6 fighters have to win this bet, you can win 7-1 on your money, meaning 7x your money. If you put in $100, you can win $700 in profit. And the fighters that I'm picking for this event this Saturday, October 7th, the fighters' names are Montana De La Rosa. I have Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I've got Drew Dober. We've got Mundonka. His name is Matthias Mundonka. We've got Joe Pyfer. He's the 5th fighter. And the 6th fighter is Kanako Murata. Now, you might be asking yourself, if all 6 of these fighters win, if I win $700, why not bet these fighters separately? Well, the long and short of it is this. It gets a little bit more complicated when we're talking about betting $100 to profit $100 on each fighter. Some fighters are great fighters who are going to be champions, are really elite level fighters, top fighters. So you can't just bet $100 to profit $100. Sometimes you have to bet $300 to profit $100. So some of these fighters on this 6-fight parlay, some of these fighters that are on here are fighters that you have to bet $400 to make $100. So if you bet them separately, you wouldn't get the same value at all. So that's why this is the strategy. It's called a parlay bet, like we said. And these are the 6 fighters again. It's Montana De La Rosa, Drew Dober, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Matthias Mendonca, Kanako Murata, and Joe Pyfer. And basically, like I'm showing you, like we have on this ticket from DraftKings, you can clearly see that once I have bet all these fights, all these fighters, and put it in one bet, very simple. You just click on each number next to the fighter's name, and then you let it go into the ticket. Click on the next fighter, let it go into the ticket, and so on. And once it gets into the ticket, it'll all be on one bet, meaning if one of those fighters lose, your whole bet loses, so you would lose your $100. But when all 6 fighters win, your $100 becomes $800, meaning you make $700 in profit. So the reason why we are going with these 6 fighters just really quickly is Karolina Kowalkiewicz is much better than her opponent. Her opponent has wins over fighters who have really bad losing records in the UFC, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz has only lost to top fighters and champions and former champions. It should be a walk in the park for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Drew Dober Drew Dober is a big favorite, meaning he's got a big chance to win. Everyone believes it. Reflected on the price right here, $400 to make 100 just individually. So the reason Drew Dober is so expensive, why people think he's going to win, is because he's just the better striker, much better striker than his opponent, whose name is Ricky Glenn. And Ricky Glenn is really more of a guy who can neutralize wrestlers. It's all about styles in the UFC. So he's good at neutralizing wrestlers, but he's not good at striking. In fact, he walks into punches. He's not good at defense against striking. He got knocked out 2 fights ago. There's a reason why Drew Dober is going to win this fight, and that's the reason why. You've got the third fighter is Kanako Murata. Murata is a fighter who is a former champion in Invicta, which is the organization outside of the UFC where before UFC had a division, a weight class for women, Invicta was the organization. So Invicta is very close to the UFC as far as how quality the fighters are in that organization. And Murata was champion there. That's why we're betting her, putting her on the parlay. Montana De La Rosa, she is a fighter who is a really good wrestler who can get your legs, sweep you down, and then she can really do a lot of damage on the ground. And she's fighting JJ Aldrich, who just is not that good on the ground, and she's slow. She gets taken down easily, so it should be a walk in the park again for Montana De La Rosa. You've got the fourth. That was the fourth fighter. The fifth fighter on this bet, this parlay bet, his name is Matias Mendonca. He's got 10 wins and only 1 loss. And his opponent has 3 losses. And Mendonca trains with really great fighters who are great at knocking people out. And Mendonca is really, really got potential. And his opponent Nate Maness, again, he's got really bad defense. He really doesn't really belong in the UFC in our opinion, and that's why we're going with Matias Mendonca. And then Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer is a guy who literally all of his wins, he knocks his opponent out. He doesn't even let it go to the judges' scorecards. He just knocks his opponents out every single time he wins. He knocks them out, and he's fighting a guy who also does the same thing, who knocks people out. Except Joe Pyfer is faster, and Joe Pyfer actually chooses his shots quicker, and his punches are quicker than his opponent. His opponent has power in his strikes, but his opponent, Al Hassan, really loads up and is very slow. So it's very easy for Joe Pyfer to see his punches. And Joe Pyfer gets out of the way easily with his head movement. He can move, meaning he moves his head out of the way and he doesn't get hit that much. And rather, Al Hassan gets hit a lot. His head movement is very slow. Like I said, he's a very slow mover. So Joe Pyfer should knock him out very easily, and that's why we have Joe Pyfer as our 6th fighter on this parlay bet. This is, I just want to say though, this is a strategy that is higher risk, of course, because to win 6 fights like this in one night is not the easiest thing to do. That's why you want to pick your strongest 6 fighters to win. And hopefully they are having a fight with somebody who is just not a good style match, or for them for our fighters are an easy style matchup against their opponents to beat their opponents easily, and that's kind of what we're doing here. But in the UFC, anything can happen, right? It's not like boxing where it's just punching. There's kicking, there's punching. You can throw elbows, you can throw knees. People get knocked out by knees. You can submit people by choking them, and then they can be unconscious, or they can tap out, which means submit, and then the referee pulls you off of them because they tapped, meaning they surrendered. There's so many ways to win. There's so many ways to lose. So it is not easy to win, to be honest, even 1 bet in the UFC, much less 6 bets. But that's why we're getting paid 7 times your money if you put your money down on this strategy, on this parlay bet. So just want to talk about those, the risks involved. Now, that is our 6-fight parlay from We've Been Drinking MMA. And I just want to let you know that you can parlay with as many fights as you want. So those are our 6 strongest fighters, 6 strongest fights that we believe are going to win, our fighters that are going to win. And we also have another parlay that we want to do, which is just 3 fighters to win. Out of these 6, we have 3 fighters that we are even more certain that if you bet them, you can even get them together on one bet called a parlay, and these fighters can pay I think it was about 5-1, meaning if you bet 100, you make 500. And these three fighters are going to be Montana De La Rosa, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Matias Mendoza. And again, we talked about Matias Mendoza. We talked about how he is 10 wins and 1 loss, so he's a really, really good record. And we talked about Karolina Kowalkiewicz, how she's only lost to the best, and her opponent has lost to, fighters with losing records and bad records. And we talked about Montana De La Rosa, where she is a really good wrestler who can take your legs from underneath you, take you down, and then she can go ahead and throw elbows and punches and all that good stuff to ensure the victory against a fighter who's not very good on the ground and from stopping the takedown. Her name is J.J. Aldrich. So, again, the three fighters that we have are on this 3-fight parlay is going to be Montana De La Rosa. We have Matias Mendonca. And we have Karolina Kowalkiewicz. And just to reiterate, that is going to pay plus 330 right now. Tomorrow it could change, So that's why I'm trying to get the bet in as soon as possible. That's why I want to do that. So right now it would be plus 333, meaning you put $100 and you would profit $333. So this is our parlay bet again, and appreciate you listening. I hope you enjoy the fights this Saturday, October 7th. And you tune in and just enjoy the fights, and you learn something from this video. And please let us know if you liked it. Please click the like button. Subscribe if you'd like, so we can get our videos out there to the public so that they have a chance to enjoy the fights and possibly 7x your money. Appreciate you listening. Thank you.